The rain drizzled over the city, painting the glass windows of the most luxurious restaurant with streaks of silver. Inside, a man sat alone at a corner table, his tailored suit sharp, his expression carved in stone. His name was Adrian Cross, a billionaire CEO known for his ruthlessness in business and his solitude outside of it. People whispered that Adrian had everything: power, wealth, control. But what they didn't know was that when the night grew quiet, he returned to an empty penthouse where laughter had never lived, where silence pressed against the walls like a heavy weight. He wasn't always this way. Years ago, he had a family. A wife who once believed in him, and a daughter with eyes as bright as morning sunlight. But Adrian's hunger for success consumed everything, and one by one, he lost them. His wife walked out, taking their daughter, and before Adrian could mend the broken pieces, a car accident stole his little girl forever. He buried his grief under deals, mergers, and late nights. He told himself he had no time for emotions. But deep inside, loneliness carved at him like a relentless blade. On that rainy night, as Adrian pushed away his half-finished steak, his phone buzzed with another email, another deal, another number, another empire to swallow. He sighed, signaling for the waiter to clear his table. But just as the waiter lifted the plate, a soft, hesitant voice interrupted. "Excuse me, sir, may we have your leftovers?" Adrian turned sharply, his icy eyes narrowing. Standing near his table were two little girls, twins no older than 7. Their dresses were thin and damp from the rain, their shoes worn. But what stopped Adrian wasn't their request, it was their eyes. Wide, innocent, and desperate, they held a haunting familiarity. They were the same shade, the same shape as his daughter's. The world seemed to tilt, and for the first time in years, Adrian's breath caught in his throat. The waiter frowned and moved to shoo them away, but Adrian raised a hand. His voice, usually sharp, softened unexpectedly. "Wait, come here." The twins looked at each other nervously before stepping closer. "We're sorry," one whispered. "We didn't mean to bother you. We're just hungry." Adrian's chest tightened. He stared at the small hands clutched together, the trembling lips, the unmistakable hollowness of children who had known hunger for too long. Something inside him cracked open. "Where's your mother?" he asked gently. The girls hesitated, eyes dropping to the floor. Finally, the other twin whispered, She's not with us anymore. We live with Miss Clara. She tries to take care of us, but there's not always enough." Adrian's throat burned. Without another word, he signaled the waiter. "Bring them food. A proper meal. Everything on the menu if you must." The waiter blinked, then nodded, hurrying away. Adrian looked back at the girls, trying to steady the storm rising inside him. "Sit with me." They sat cautiously, unsure of the man before them. As plates began to arrive, piled with warm bread, soup, chicken, and pasta, the girls' faces lit up with pure joy. They ate quickly, as if afraid the food might vanish. Adrian watched in silence, memories flooding back, his daughter giggling with spaghetti sauce on her cheeks, the way she used to sneak cookies before dinner. The ache of loss he had buried so deeply now roared to the surface. One of the girls looked up, her mouth full, and said, "Thank you, mister. You're kind." Adrian nearly laughed bitterly. Kind? Him? The man who destroyed competitors without mercy. The man who let his own family slip away. And yet, in their innocent gratitude, he felt something stir, a reminder of the humanity he thought he had lost. "Do you go to school?" he asked. The girls exchanged a glance before shaking their heads. "We want to," one whispered. "But Miss Clara can't pay the fees." Adrian leaned back, staring at the rain-streaked window. The city outside was alive with light, but for these girls, darkness reigned. His empire meant nothing if children like them lived in shadows. For the first time in years, Adrian didn't return to his penthouse that night. Instead, he asked the twins to take him to where they lived. The streets narrowed as they led him through alleys, past flickering lamps and crumbling walls, until they reached a small, worn-down building. Inside, an older woman, Miss Clara, looked up in alarm. Her clothes were simple, her hands rough, but her eyes were tired and kind. "Who is this?" she asked, pulling the twins close. Adrian introduced himself briefly, his voice quiet. Miss Clara frowned. "You shouldn't have brought him here," she scolded the girls softly. "We don't ask strangers for food." But Adrian shook his head. "No, they didn't bother me. They saved me." Miss Clara's expression softened, though confusion lingered. She explained that she had taken in the twins when their mother, her sister, passed away. But raising 2 children alone with her meager income was nearly impossible. Many nights, she went hungry so the girls could eat. She had applied for help, but the world was slow to answer. Adrian stood in that dimly lit room, surrounded by cracked walls and the faint smell of damp wood, and something inside him shifted permanently. He saw in Miss Clara's sacrifices the kind of love he had once taken for granted. He saw in the twins the innocence he had lost with his daughter. And for the first time in his life, Adrian Cross didn't think of profits, deals, or power. He thought of purpose. The next morning, he began making calls, not to his boardroom, but to schools, lawyers, and contractors. Within days, the twins were enrolled in a private school with full scholarships. Miss Clara received monthly support. Adrian even commissioned renovations for their home, transforming the broken structure into a safe, warm haven. But he didn't stop there. The twins had lit a fire in him that would not die. He created a foundation in his daughter's memory, dedicated to feeding, housing, and educating children in need. At first, people thought it was a publicity stunt. Adrian Cross, the ruthless CEO, suddenly caring about orphans. But the truth was deeper. He visited shelters, ate with the children, listened to their stories. He saw himself in their loneliness, his daughter in their laughter, his redemption in their hope. Weeks turned into months, and the twins became a constant part of his life. They would visit his office, filling the cold, sterile halls with giggles and drawings. They reminded him daily that wealth wasn't measured in numbers but in lives touched, in hearts healed. One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Adrian sat on a bench in the park, the twins leaning against him, their tiny hands holding his. One of them looked up and asked softly, "Mr. Adrian, are you our daddy now?" His chest tightened, tears burning his eyes. He had failed once as a father. But maybe, just maybe, life was giving him a second chance, not to replace what he had lost, but to honor it. He smiled through the tears and whispered, "I'll be whatever you need me to be." From that night forward, Adrian Cross was no longer just a CEO. He was a man with a mission, a man who finally understood that the greatest legacy isn't built in boardrooms but in the lives we touch with love. The world saw a transformation. The media covered his story, but Adrian never cared for the cameras. What mattered was the laughter in his home, the light in the twins' eyes, and the quiet peace in his heart. Years later, when the twins graduated high school, they stood on stage, valedictorians of their class, their speech dedicated to the man who had once given them his leftovers, but ended up giving them so much more. Adrian sat in the crowd, older now, his hair silver at the temples, but his eyes brighter than ever. And when they looked out at him, calling him Dad, he knew he had found what money could never buy: redemption, love, and a family. The rain that once symbolized his loneliness now reminded him of that night when 2 little girls changed his life forever. And though his daughter was gone, Adrian knew she was smiling down at him, proud that her father had finally learned the truth. That wealth means nothing without compassion. That loneliness fades when we open our hearts. And that sometimes, the smallest voices carry the power to heal the deepest wounds. Sparkles. By the time the video ends, your audience will be left teary-eyed yet uplifted, reminded that no matter how broken or lost someone